Welcome into the postgame. Rockets get their fifth straight win, 124-109 in Memphis. And Ben DuBose here with me. I got to say, the Rockets looked really good on a night when some things maybe weren't flawless. They just looked really good, and they came at you in waves. No Steven Adams tonight. Jabari does come back. And there's just, I made a list of at least 7 heroes. Maybe there's more. They are deep and they are playing really well. They're a big team. And tonight they just destroyed the Grizzlies.
Yeah, and I think the biggest story is Amen Thompson looked like the best player on the floor. And I think that's something the Rockets had been needing and expecting to see for a while, in large part because of the attention that Kevin Durant and Alperen Sengun draw. It felt like this was a game where anytime they got the ball inside the three-point arc, and in some cases beyond it with KD, they were getting a double. They were getting played super physically. I thought the refs let a lot of contact go. But if you have these 4-on-3s on the backside, then Amen Thompson, with his combination of athleticism, ball handling power, he should be the guy to take advantage. I thought in the first half he did against Dallas. It felt like he ran out of gas a little bit. We speculated on Monday's postgame about the calf cramping maybe being an issue again. It was not tonight. He had everything for the full game, finished 28, 10, 7, and 2. And what's crazy to me, Dave, he was 13 of 26, and obviously the 26 shot attempt speaks to just how much Kevin Durant and Alperen Sengun, who both struggled in terms of shooting tonight, I think in large part due to the defense's full attention being paid to them. But of the 13 of 26, obviously the 26 very high. It speaks to, things being funneled towards Amen and those other guys. He easily could have made 17 or 18. Like, Amen missed some shots in the 4 or 5 foot range that I think he feels like he probably should make. And so that's what's really encouraging to me, is that we know how good Kevin Durant and Alperen Sengun are. And if Amen Thompson is capable of doing this, and the Rockets certainly believe he is, the sky is the limit for this team. Like, the crazy thing to think about in the macro of this season, they started 0-2, now they're 5-2. The first 3 games or so, Amen wasn't Amen. The first game at Oklahoma City, he looked good, but he had to leave with the calf cramps. The next 2 games against the Pistons and the Nets were games where he was in early foul trouble. The Pistons one especially, he had 4 fouls in the first half and then, got benched to start the second half as a result of it and never seemed in rhythm. The Rockets were number 1 in offense without having anywhere near the version of Amen Thompson that internally they expected. Now you're getting the version of Amen Thompson. What's scary about this team is that really there have only been 2 games, Toronto and Boston, where it feels like they've all been humming at the same time in terms of the big guns. Because these last 2 games, KD has been off from a shooting perspective. And, some of it's how teams are choosing to defend him. But look, he's missing some shots that he should make. There's a lot of good looks for KD tonight that just rimmed out. It is what it is, happens to everybody over 82 games. But if the Rockets are this good offensively, best in the league, with KD struggling the last 2 games and with the men struggling the first 3, and this is out of a 7-game sample, just imagine how good this team is going to look when everybody's clicking at the same time.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I'm amazed. Like, I'm just watching this team and I'm like, man, they look good. Now, I will say, before we go and rave about them, they're 5-0 against teams that are 500 or below currently in the standings. And I believe they're 0-2, the first 2 games of the season against teams that are above 500. We're about to see some more tests. But they have been passing tests as they've gotten better and really with flying colors. They did have a couple of poor games, obviously Detroit, and then this last game. But, this one here, they just roughed up Memphis. Memphis is not the best team, 25th offensively, 23rd defensively coming into this game. But you still have Ja. Cedric Howard has looked really good as a rookie. They have some talent, but Rockets just ran over them. Jabari comes back. Steven Adams is out today, so you're wondering how they're going to do in the rebounding battle. 62-57. It was actually close on the boards overall. But Jabari, I thought, was significant in the plus minus. Every time they put him in, or every time he was in, they made a run. They took him out. They'd step back. I'm not saying it was solely because of Jabari, but that was definitely a key thing tonight. He only took 8 shots, 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep. Did have that one dunk attempt and landed on his tailbone. Hopefully he's fine. He did continue to play. But yeah, I mean, just all around for Kevin Durant, for Adams to be out and Kevin Durant to go 5 of 18 from the field, and Şengün, I mean, he ended up getting a few baskets at the end, but 6 of 14 from the field. It just speaks to the overall talent of this team, that they just still crush them in waves. I mean, as you pointed out, Amen 13 to 26 from the field. The Rockets not killing you with volume from three, but 13 of 30 from deep. Very efficient. They're continuing this change, this leap, I guess, into being a really good 3-point shooting team. It's hard to say if that's going to continue, but up to this point, they've been well over 40% on the year. So, yeah, I was just super impressed with how they played. Started with Amen. Şengün, nice all-around game as well. He wasn't, like I said, efficient offensively, but 20 points, 16 boards, 7 assists. So, yeah, you got to love that when Kevin Durant has a poor game and they still play like this.
100%. And I think you look at the two big guns for Memphis. Ja Morant was 6 of 19. Jaren Jackson Jr. was 2 of 6. And I know you want to talk about the Spurs game on Friday, Dave. The way that Josh Okogie denied Jaren Jackson Jr. makes me think, and you tweeted this during the game, that he's going to get a shot against Wemby as well. And it might work to an extent. We've seen some smaller players with quick hands and good lateral quickness succeed, at least to an extent, against Wemby this year. So it would not surprise me if Josh Okogie gets a look. And, you know, the one nitpick I had when we were texting at halftime, I talked about, you know, if Okogie doesn't make threes at some point, you know, that's always been the question in his career. Is he a good enough 3-point shooter for his defense to be worth it? And at halftime, I said, you know, if he doesn't make enough threes, at some point they may need to think about playing Tari Eason over him. By the way, Tari's been fantastic. His last 5 games, he's shooting over 55% from three. So, yeah, he looks really good. 4 of 8 tonight. But then Josh, it's almost like he saw our text. In the second half of the game, he came out and made 3 threes. And it's one of those situations where, with the attention that Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün draw, and eventually Amen Thompson as well, if you're one of those other two guys, you know, Jabari, he's been good when he's been out there all season long. Like, we talked about that in the aftermath of what he did in Toronto and Boston. But when Josh Okogie is able to make threes at the clip that he largely has, the first half he missed some open ones, but he made up for it in a big way in the second half. I mean, that's a really good and well-balanced starting 5. And then when any of them needs a break, well, then you put in Tari Eason off the bench, who also has that shooting. And so when you get the gravity of the big 3, I mean, really the top 2, but we know Amen's going to be there as well. And then the supporting cast shoots the way they did tonight. You know, you look at the 3-point percentages. Jabari made 2 of his 3. Josh made 3 of 5. Tari made 4 of 8. Reed Shepherd made 2 of 4. Like, these are good looks, but I don't care who you're playing. It's tough to shoot that well. And so the fact that they've done it, they're number 1 in the league. I think they still are in 3-point accuracy for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 games it's a small sample, but it's not nothing. Like, we're getting, you know, by the end of the weekend, we'll be close to, you know, 10% of the way through the season, as crazy as that is to say.
Yeah.
So it's getting a point where you don't want to draw any super firm conclusions, but it's not necessarily statistical noise either. Like, the shooters have leveled up. You know, Tari Eason's in a contract year. I loved your tweet, Dave, about he bet on himself, and so far he's winning. Yeah, if he shoots threes at anywhere near 40%, combine that with defense and we assume durability, and he's going to get paid next off season, be it from the Rockets or somebody else. But yeah, whatever you ascribe it to, be it the better quality of looks, the individual shooters leveling it up, perhaps a combination of all of it. But regardless, if they shoot at this level and you combine that with the gravity of the big 2, the big 3, then this is going to be just a great offensive team all season long, assuming health.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you nailed it on the Tari thing, because, you know, the first couple of games we were like, what is going on with Tari? He was kind of a wreck, and we thought, man, is this contract weighing on him, not having the negotiations, you know, not coming out of that with a successful extension? Boy, I mean, it's since then, I think we've had 5 games. 4 of them he's hit 3 or more triples. 3 of them now he's hit 4 or more triples. I mean, this is Tari Eason. The guy's never been like a terrible 3-point shooter. He's never been a great one either. He's kind of average, 35-ish, 36% is what you kind of expect maybe from Tari. He's just scorching right now. And he's obviously putting a lot of work on his game. And yeah, I do think his bet is looking terrific. I don't know if somebody's going to throw a fortune necessarily at him, but he's a two-way player. He creates a lot of chaos. Really tonight, Amen, Okogie, and Tari, and I'll include Jabari in there, but those three, they're sort of doing, Okogie's filling that Dylan Brooks role. And I can't remember which player was saying this the other day. I heard him talking about Lou Dort just getting away with being physical. That's Ime Udoka's entire style and what he uses with Dylan Brooks. I think now Okogie's, he has changed it for the Rockets. I think what they expected Dorian Finney-Smith to fill that role. He's not back yet. You'll have another guy, another big defensive two-way kind of guy that you'll add to this roster when he comes in here. I mean, I'm just excited. I look at this team and I'm thinking, yeah, they can contend. I mean, yeah, they're missing Fred, the point guard thing and all that, but Amen is growing by leaps and bounds. Reed Sheppard had his best game today. He had a few blunders here and there, like Reed tends to have at this early stage of his career. But 5 of 7 from the field, as you mentioned, 2 of 4 from 3. Probably his best game this season, maybe. I'd have to go back and look, but it felt like it. That was a better showing from him with 12 points. So yeah, I like I said, this isn't the greatest test, but the Rockets are passing all these tests.
100%.
Yeah, a great showing overall.
And I think what's really noteworthy, they've played 4 of their 7 games on the road, and there's the old adage that role players shoot better at home. No, they're shooting better on the road. The fact that they go into opposing gyms and shoot this well, by the eye test, the 3 best shooting games they've had were tonight, Toronto, and Boston. All 3 of those were on the road. If anything, they've been clearly the worst, in my opinion, was the Dallas game where it felt like they couldn't throw it in the ocean. And that's where over the balance of 82 games, you would think they're going to have some games where the vibes are better because they're at home. So the fact that they're performing this well on the road, not just winning, but shooting this well, and not just the big guns, because yeah, you would expect Kevin Durant not to be fazed by fans booing him, and he's not. But for the road, for the young guys to go out and execute in these road games, to me, is really, really encouraging. And yeah, there's just so much to like. I guess, the only nitpick you could throw out, I see a comment from the chat about, opposing teams putting smaller guys on Kevin Durant. I think that's a valid concern. However, I think a lot of what happened tonight, the Rockets played with a comfortable lead for a lot of this game. It got down, very briefly to 4 at the start of the second half. For the most part, it felt like it sort of oscillated between 10 and 20 for most of the game, especially the second half. And I think there was a lot of contact that if the game was close would have been whistled, but that they let go tonight. And I haven't seen the updated stats, but for the season overall going into tonight, KD was over 9 free throw attempts per game. That was a big bump from like 5.5 or so last year. Yeah. I think the game plan, he didn't deviate too much from it tonight. I just don't think he got the whistles that he wanted to. And I think a lot of it comes down to, if you're winning easily and you're on the road, that's sort of the perfect storm for officials to let a lot of things go and just move the game along, especially if they don't think it's that impactful to the bottom line. So that's the one thing I'll offer. Like, it's not to say that Memphis didn't do a good job against him. I think they did, but I think the box score looks a little bit differently if you take away a couple of those misses and instead you give him, 4 or 6 free throws. And if he plays in San Antonio and it's a tighter game, which I think we both expect it's likely to be, hopefully he gets a friendlier whistle, the star level whistle that we all want Kevin Durant to get. And, beyond that, he also just missed some shots. Like, let's just be clear. It's a long season, happens to anybody. Several of those looks, like you saw him sort of exasperated, just, arms and eyes to the heavens, just looking up, why can't I get a break? And, it's always good when that happens in a win. But yeah, like a lot of the shots he made the first 5 games, he missed them the last 2. It happens to everybody. I don't think, unless it goes on for a sustained period, it's anything to be particularly concerned about. I don't think he's, hurt or worn down. I haven't seen any signs of that. They haven't had any back-to-backs. I think it's just, it's a long season. It's early. He's missing some shots that he would otherwise make. And fortunately, the players around him are taking advantage of his gravity so much that it hasn't even remotely affected them in terms of where it matters most, which is wins and losses.
Yeah. A few other notes I just jotted down. Şengün, obviously not offensively the most efficient, but as you pointed out, the gravity, it was very significant. And what he does so well is read off of double teams. I think that's been his most impactful thing this year. I think if you actually look, his first game of this season against OKC, he was incredible, efficient, 5 triples.
Mm-hmm.
When you look since then, his efficiency is a little concerning, kind of slipping back to last year's stuff. It's way too early. I'm not saying it's not. I think his leap is for real because he's comfortable now shooting threes where he wasn't before.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't care so much.
The free throws are up too.
Yes, free throws seem up too. But his passing has been the most impactful thing with Fred out. He just seems to find guys. There was one play, I think it was third quarter. He brought the ball up, quickly whipped it to Jabari in the corner, fired off a three, nailed it. He has a knack for finding Amen Thompson. He knows when a men's guy out of that dunker spot or the baseline cut, he knows when he comes for a double. I keep always saying this, that if I was an opposing coach, I would probably live more with Şengün just trying to score repeatedly, and maybe he does burn you. But rather than bringing that guy off to double him, because Şengün is so good at finding the open man, particularly Amen. A couple other things I want to mention about Amen. One, just seeing him next to John Morant makes you realize what a freak this guy is and how physically tough it must be. This guy is busting it on both ends of the floor. His size he was so much bigger than Ja. I could just see that. It was striking to me. And then one other thing, and because Ime addressed this after the game, is I noted in the first quarter when they had Triple J on Amen, they were sagging off and asking Amen to shoot that long range shot. And there was a play, I can't remember what point it was in the game, where he had it top of the key and wide open. Triple J was 5-10 feet away from him, and Amen didn't take it. He ended up kind of dribbling in. I think he took a shot from about 15, 16 feet, missed it. And I noted that. Of course, he ended up having a great game, but that's something that's still a thing with him. He's gotten better, but this is a guy, if he is able to knock down that long three when they sag off of him, I mean, the sky is the limit, because this guy is amazing. He is the best, in my opinion, the best pick they've made. He is a gem.
Yeah. And it's worth noting he has made a three in each of the past 3 games. Now, it's just 1 3, so let's not get carried away, but it's better than, the start to the year when he, I think, was 0 for 10 through the first 4 games, something like that. So the volume is still low, but even if it's just on occasion, him hitting 1 or 2 per night when they sag off to that extent can make a big difference. So it's early, but it's one of many promising signs for him. I still think the biggest thing is just the durability. I really thought the same thing would have happened Monday. It's just once he had that collision midway through, he didn't seem to have the same juice. We speculated as to why. We don't know that. Tonight, there was no such collision. He had the juice, and he was able to finish and play 48 full minutes in a way that, he was still good in the second half on Monday. He just wasn't otherworldly. The other thing on Amen, and I think this is a source for optimism. I was looking at the 2-man and 3-man lineup data to see who plays well together. And really, it's more who plays best together because, their net rating to this point, it's second in the NBA. They're first in offense, 7th in defense. So everything looks good. It's just how good. And one of the big differences, so going into tonight when it was Şengün and Amen, the plus minus in net rating is like plus 25, almost plus 26. When it's KD and Amen, it's like plus 9, which is still good, but it's a difference between good and elite. And I think it actually makes sense because the thing about Amen Thompson, he is one of the most unique players in the NBA. Like we talk about how rare his athleticism is, but really just the entire package of his game. There are very few players, not just like him, anywhere close to him. And so I think for Kevin, it's going to take him a little bit more time. So early in the year, the fact that, Şengün seems to have this connection with him, I think that's really important because you sort of need to lean into Şengün as a playmaker early in the year to get the best out of Amen. I think as the year progresses, KD will figure it out. Obviously, he's extremely high IQ, but I think for now, just based on the 2 previous years of experience playing together, the chemistry between Şengün and Amen is a little ahead of the chemistry between KD and Amen. I think that's natural. I think it'll improve. And really, like as I see it, that's encouraging that they're playing this well, even with the growing pains, because to me, that's low-hanging fruit. KD and Amen are going to get more used to playing with one another. I think KD in one of his interviews mentioned that he hasn't played with anyone like Amen before. So yeah, as the season goes along, assuming they all stay healthy, like that's one of those little things. As the chemistry gets better, it should only benefit the team moving forward. Like that's the crazy thing, is that they're 5-2. The ratings are through the roof. I know the schedule's been a little light, but look, even adjusting for the schedule, the ratings speak for themselves. Like the fact that they're going out, and I know I said it a couple of episodes ago, but I'll say it again. The Gerald Morey quote, good teams don't win close games, they avoid them. And so for the Rockets to be able to consistently, I guess the one exception being the Dallas game, and, to the Rockets' credit, KD and Şengün did do what they needed to late in that game to make sure they survive. But most of these games, especially on the road, like they're just going out and, professionally taking care of business. I mean, the crazy thing tonight, like a lot of people on social media were saying that the Grizzlies' effort looks sort of bad, and wondering, obviously there's been questions about the new coach, how bought in is Ja Morant. He obviously got suspended a week ago. I thought what sort of kept the Grizzlies in somewhat, I don't want to say striking distance, but kept them, down 15 or 20 instead of down 25 or 30. The Rockets gave up some pretty easy transition points when it felt like they were a little bit bored. Like they would get up 21, 22 points and just get a little bit, sloppy, just thinking, oh, we got this. And then it would go back down to 12 or 14. And then the Rockets, there was never a point that you really felt threatened. Anytime it got even remotely close, the Rockets just said, yeah, that's cute. And again, that's, it's frustrating, but A, it's what good teams do. And B, like it's a way you can get even better. Like they're doing this even with, a few sloppy turnovers and some lapses in transition defense. Like just imagine as they build more chemistry and get more dialed in, I mean, they can be even better than this.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Ben, by the way. I'm really amazed at how, I'm really optimistic about the ceiling of this team. I think they've got a lot of great things going on. For you to have Fred out and KD to play like this, and again, it is against Memphis. And as far as his efficiency, KD obviously deals with a lot, gets fouled a lot. I'm not knocking KD, but just had a poor, inefficient shooting night. For them to still basically crush Memphis was an incredible sign. I want to give a shout out to Clint Capella as well. With Steven Adams out, the Rockets believed in Capella. We thought at the time, what's going on when they added a third center, didn't quite understand what that was about. And it's really his incredible rebounding rate, which, he's up there with Adams. Adams is one of a kind, but he's up there. And you still kind of wonder, well, will he fit in the same way tonight? 10 boards, 4 offensive, did this in just 16 minutes. So I think it's really encouraging to see Clint Capella embracing this role. You're able to give Steven Adams off nights, and Capella can still play and do the same kind of thing that you need with that double big.
Yeah. One other note from tonight's box score before we can, wrap up with a little bit of Spurs talk.
Yeah.
I think tonight was a game, if you were on the fence about Ja Morant, and it was reported by Sam Amick of The Athletic earlier in the day that the Rockets were unlikely to trade for Ja or pursue a trade for Ja, citing a team source, meaning he spoke to the Rockets. I think tonight should have been more evidence to tip you, I think, to where you and I already were, which is on the side of not pursuing it. Yeah,
we talked about it. We both were just like, I can't see the Rockets pursuing him. Derek White, I could see if that was a thing, if it wasn't outrageously priced. But everybody, we're just forecasting. As far as how they view the player, I don't think they would go after Ja Morant. And just look
I don't
at what he brings. Like
he doesn't look quite as explosive as he was earlier in his career. But even adjusting for that, I just don't think it fits the model. Like we know a lot about how this head coach and this GM view the team for when they chose to go after Fred VanVleet instead of James Harden 2 years ago. Like they value being able to let certain guys, and in this case, the young guys, Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün, most notably, they want to be able to get them more touches to continue developing. And now you have Kevin Durant in the fold as well, which you didn't 2 years ago. So I don't think they want a very high usage guard. Like the perfect guard to have would unfortunately be Fred VanVleet, and doubt that's going to happen this year. And so, as a backup plan, you mentioned Derek White, someone of that mold, yes. But when we're talking about someone who consistently has a usage rate of around 30 or so, no, like at that point, you're taking away touches and playmaking opportunities for the likes of KD, Şengün, and Amen. And I think you're seeing consistently this team has enough offensive firepower. And for all the talk about is Amen Thompson a point guard or not, well, I mean, for starters, the plus minus continues to speak for itself. They are succeeding when he is their point guard on the floor. It just is what it is. But beyond that, tonight, look, you didn't even really need a point guard. The offense was wait until the other team sends that second defender towards Kevin Durant or Alperen Şengün, and then whoever gets the ball either shoot an open three or attack. Like, it's not rocket science. You don't need a point guard to organize you. When you have Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün, they sort of organize you by themselves. So, it's just with Jaw specifically, but I also think really any of these high usage point guards, barring something crazy happening like a downturn in their level of form or injuries that, are much more significant than we're anticipating, I just can't see that making sense with what they have now and what we already know about the Ime Udoka and Rafael Stone era Rockets and how they sort of view the team. Because I just don't think they want to just like load up and have, nothing but big name stars at every position. No, like they value, some of these guys being role players and fitting in around the stars. You have the firepower now. And I think, that's why they're targeting guys like Josh Okogie, like Dorian Finney-Smith, that they think are going to fit like gloves around that big three. And I think that's going to be the focus if they do make any moves during the season.
Yeah. And Ja, with KD here, Şengün and Amen and even Jabari, it's like, if Ja's not taking 15, 20 shots a night, how is he going to be happy? And really the real strength of Ja Morant was his incredible rim pressure when he's a rookie. And if you look at his year by year stats, as far as the amount of, how he attacks the basket, the rim pressure, it looks like an Enron stock chart. It's just plummeting down. I don't know what's going on with him. I think a team that just has an approach to team building right now of like, why not? Like the Kings or the Pelicans, some team that just has to win. Maybe there's a pressure from owner or something. They may take a flyer. The Raptors, I can't see the Rockets. People will say, oh, they need a point guard, and they'll continue to automatically assume every point guard should go to Houston. I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Spurs. This is, look, I don't think we came into the season having this one circled as in this is the great test, but the Spurs came out red hot, and Wemby looks unbelievable. They have lost their star rookie, Dylan Harper, number 2 pick of the draft, who looked really good. He's out with a calf injury. Not that Rockets fans are in any way feeling sorry for any team that has injuries. Rockets are dealing with plenty themselves, but you won't see the full Spurs team, just like you won't see the full Rockets team. But this is a really big test for how they deal with Wemby. Dylan Brooks, in my opinion, was the Wemby stopper. He did an incredible job just being physical up and down the floor with him. And I thought maybe Tari will fill this role, but I do think, as we talked about, Okogie could very well be that guy for stretches in this game. I want to see how Şengün does against him. Şengün, 2 years ago, torched him for 45 points, made him look silly, kind of like how he does with, just other players that really weren't, defensive wizards like him. However, last year, Wemby had tremendous success defending Şengün. So I'm very curious to see. This is like the third, basically the rubber match here. I want to see how this looks this year. But overall, this is a big, big test. First NBA Cup game as well for the Rockets. What are you expecting?
Yeah. And a storyline you didn't even mention, Reed Shepherd against Stephen Castle.
Oh, yeah.
Steph Castle.
I was trying to save Reed on that one, but okay.
I know. I mean, he's been outplayed. Now there's some obvious differences in circumstances there, but I will say when the Rockets get the version of Reed they have tonight where he's making shots and he had a couple of steals as well, this is a completely different team. There are no weaknesses. So hopefully Reed on Friday against Castle, like that's nowhere near the top storyline, but if Reed circles that on his calendar, and I suspect that he will and goes out and plays well, then what that means for the team overall is significant, because if Reed isn't getting outplayed in his minutes, then where is the weakness for this Rockets team? As far as keys to the game and do the Rockets actually get the win, like obviously Kevin needs to be better. A few people in the chat have mentioned that, like you need KD to be on his game against the Spurs, and when you're in tight spots in the half court, make shots in a way that he didn't tonight. Now they didn't need him to, so got to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But I really think, like from an X's and O's perspective, the biggest variable on Friday, it's going to be the mid-range games, specifically those little push shots, the floaters from Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson. Because the one thing about Wemby, like it's going to be very difficult to consistently get to the rim unless you're lucky enough to get him in foul trouble. and hopefully they shoot well enough from three, but you don't want to necessarily count on, especially at the low volume the Rockets shoot, that carrying you on the road. So what you need is, in a normal game, you'd be able to get to the rim and finish, draw a lot of fouls. Against Wemby and his length, you may not be able to. You'll still get advantages, don't get me wrong, because between KD, Amen, Alpi, the Rockets have enough on the perimeter that they can draw second defenders. But instead of being able to get all the way to the rim, you may have to pull up a little, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, somewhere in that range, and, stop and pop, put up a midi. Jabari could play into this as well. But I really think Amen and Şengün are the two that I'm going to be looking at because they handle the ball a little bit more. And we know that in a perfect world, they would go straight to the rim. They both did that a decent bit to get going tonight. That's going to be a little bit harder in San Antonio. So in the half court against a team with a 7'5" freak, are those guys going to be able to execute in the in-between areas? If they do, I think the Rockets win.
Yeah, it's this is going to be an interesting one. Spurs are currently, again, it's early, the second in the league in defensive rating. That's what I want to see. Can the Rockets just their number one offense up to this point, how that matches against the number 2 defense, which is the Spurs at this point as well. Again, Dylan Harper's out. I don't think that necessarily is the impact for the defense. But that's what I'm looking for. And in particular, Wemby, just how the Rockets, because the Rockets are going to have to deal with Wemby for a long time. And Cooper Flagg was the same thing. I was curious how they would do. Rockets look really good. He's a rookie, of course. Looked really good against Wemby or against Cooper Flagg. But how this Rocket team matches up with Wemby is one of my biggest question marks. They have a lot of good talent. Sohan's a good defensive player. As you pointed out about Castle's not exactly an efficient scorer shooter, but got good size, good defensive player. It's basically right now offense against defense. The Rockets want to be there defensively, and they are climbing back there. But it's an offense against defense matchup at this point.
And one last key to the game, I really hope they get Steven Adams back. He was out with a hip flexor strain tonight. I hope it was maybe the Rockets being a little bit conservative because Friday's game is obviously a lot more difficult. Memphis is a game you were heavy favorites no matter what, because I think the Spurs trying to keep Steven Adams off the offensive glass, he's a very good player overall, and the double big might be very useful in this game to sort of overwhelm them with physicality. But more than that, I think, you see it on the screen right now, Wemby being in foul trouble. Steven Adams is a magnet for getting guys into foul trouble. And that might be how you could sneak a couple of early fouls on Wemby, because we know how difficult it is to box out Steven Adams. Yes, even if you're that long. So you need Steven for a number of reasons, but Steven can get a couple of cheap ones on Wemby. Well, I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, they're legit fouls. Yeah, right. It's not like Steven's out there flopping, but you know what I mean? They're very atypical. And I think if Steven plays Friday, that could help you a little bit if you can get Wemby into foul trouble. Because if you do, then that completely changes everything.
Man, I'm so looking forward to that one. That's going to be a fun game Friday night. Hey, if you guys don't have weekend plans or make this your weekend plans, we'll be back Friday night after the game looking forward to talking to you, Ben, about that one. But Rockets get their 5th straight win. They are rolling after an 0-2 start, and let's hope they can get a big one, move to 6-2 against the Spurs. That would be great. And certainly send a message to all those Spurs fans who had no problem talking smack when they were 3-0 and Rockets were 0-2. So this would be a great message to send. Ben, appreciate you doing this tonight. Go Rockets. We will be back on Friday night.